What's up folks, so I'm back again for those who was waiting for this release video with specifications and settings for the overclock of 10980XE CPU from Intel. This one CPU runs at 5 GHz and we're gonna walk you through all the specs that I'm currently applied for my RAM page. And here is just quickly what we got here. Also just to point the RAM set to XMP profile. We don't do any tweaks here, we just keep it at XMP. Whoever wants to try it, push it harder, and good luck. It's gonna be a lot of time invested in this. So mine is running at XMP, which is default 320, and it's very low timings, which is 14, 14, 14. Those are the cars here. And the total is 128 gigabytes of RAM. So let's move forward into the actual I guess we're gonna go first on the extreme tweaker, just to scroll a little bit down step by step so you can just record it in slow motion for the specification we're set here. So pretty much for the core ratio we set 2 and 2. That's what works for me. You can this is what actually appears to be a throttle. If the CPU for some reason unable to handle 5 Hz at some point, it will throttle to, let's say, to 48, and that will keeps you keep going, you know, like instead of crushing. So this is the safe point, to keep at least 2 and 2. Don't try to put 0 because you probably most likely will end up with the blue screen. So this is something to keep an eye on. Then we have all cores sync, which is 50 multiplier, which gives you 5 GHz, and the CPU cache, it's at default. I won't recommend to touch this. This is what works for me. If you go a little bit higher, you might get a little issues later, but for the very stable situation, I will keep it at default, which is 30 multiplier. Going down to the RAM settings, RAM, again, it's XMP profile, and this is the default for my Corsair RAM. It's 3200. Extreme tweaking, just keep it disabled. CPU, CV support, just keep it disabled. Let's come here. Again, this is all XMP profile, so nothing changed here. It's just all auto. Let's go back to the previous one. Alright, then the next feature is the CPU power management. Let's take a look what we got in here. So here we got the turbo mode must be enabled for sure. Enhanced Intel speed step technology, this is something you want to disable. And the rest of the fields, I won't touch them. Just keep it auto. Everything to the auto, with exception to this little VRM efficient management. This one goes high performance, which probably this is something you want to do it. Again, at your own risk. And going to the tweaker's paradise. Again, here we pretty much everything is auto. Nothing much to explore except to the turbo residual tweak. I guess this is the numbers. You should keep it, or they were default, at least on my motherboard. So everything else is auto. Alright, let's go back. Again, this is my personal overclock. It may not work specifically for your CPU because every CPU is different and every overclock may need some manual adjustments to it. So I just showing you what works in my case to achieve that 5 Hz, which are pretty much stable, and you run them at full load. Alright, else we've got in here? Alright, CPU core voltage. This is something to point. As you can see, I keep it auto. And my CPU runs at 1.350, which I will show you later once we get into the Windows. But this is something for you to try first and keep it auto, see how much voltage by default your motherboard will give you, instead of just digging 1 volt at a time and getting blue screens. See how much the automated option will give you, and then you can adjust it. But otherwise you can just keep it auto and the motherboard will adjust it according to your needs, so you don't have to worry about it. Most folks will do manual, can blame them for it, but in my case it's auto, it works perfectly. Same thing for the CPU cache. Everything else, Unicore goes in auto. The CPU input voltage goes in auto. The only thing I was adjusted manually is the DRAM to get that XMP profile. It's a little higher than recommended by the manufacturer, but this is what works for me. And also VCCIO voltage was a little bit adjusted, and the CPU system agent voltage was a little bit adjusted by me too. Everything else is auto. Alright, going into the advanced settings, let's see what's there. This is something just nothing related pretty much for overclock, so you don't have to worry about this field. This is just your preferences are, which you will do on your own. In my case, again, monitors are also boot, nothing to worry in here as well. So pretty much, yeah, that's the extreme tweak. This is all you need to pay attention to. So let's go jump into the Windows and see what results we currently have since the last changes. Let's get out of the... Alright, let's just discard changes and exit. So we don't have any of the changes. So let's load it. While it's loading, here is again a little overview. Nothing has been changed much. I mean, nothing pretty much has changed, with exception, as you may notice, I got rid of that crazy, super annoying fan, and it's actually got rid of this room, but it went all the way to the attic, so now it's installed in my attic and make all that crazy sound right there, so you won't hear it anymore. You will only hear now the compressor that works inside the chiller, and that's that actually digging noise. This is what you hear, is the compressor. No fans inside, and we only hear a little bit like noisy, like air going through, because that fan is still spinning through that pipe, air pipe, and it actually gives you like kind of turbulence in here, which you might notice with this little, as you can see, when you put the piece of paper, it sticks to it because the suction is so good. It's like around, I think it's 300 RPM fan, which gives enough CFM. There we go, just a quick overview. Alright, the Windows is loaded. Let me just go back into my system quickly. And first, let's launch CPU-Z. Let's launch AIDA Express, just to show you the temperatures are. So we got all the temps are here. We're gonna keep the CPU-Z right here. So here is the CPU-Z results. Let me just put it a little bit to the up. Here we go. So we got 1.360 volt. As you can see, it's adjusted automatically by the BIOS, so nothing has been manually changed by me. And the CPU core is still at 5 GHz. Let's open task just to see utilization of the CPU, how much it runs at. Alright, here we go. Alright, so we got 4%, and now let's start Cinebench. See what are the results would be. Just a little bit. Okay, it's Cinebench release 20, and let's run it. Once we run it, we're gonna see if there's any throttle on the CPU. As you can see, it's 480, just dropped. Once drops 49, and this is why those 2 points which we apply in BIOS, that's what gives you exactly if there is a specifically overload at some point, your CPU will throttle a little bit, but it pretty much gives you a consistent result. Now it's 10,000. If you run one more time, and if you actually run without with some of the software is disabled, like Internet Explorer, not Internet, I'm sorry, the security firewall system disabled, you're gonna get a much higher result. At least on my end, I get up to 11,000 score in the Cinebench. And here's the temperatures as well. As you can see, the CPU temperature, pretty much it's 98. With some other cores goes over 100, but those are the individual cores. But overall result is 98. And then it's dropped immediately when the test is over. As you can see, we got 4% utilization of the CPU while the test was performed. There was a little throttle, as you will notice. And here is another test. It's pretty much still 10,790, so we're like 200 points away from 11,000. If I disable a firewall, then we'll get solid 11,000 score, which you may notice in another video. So yeah, this is the settings that I use. Again, it may not work for you, every CPU is different, but you may try it and see what works on your end. And again, that's my system. It's cooled by the chiller, which gives you consistent water temperature. Right now it's 20, it's actually set to 35, as you will notice. Yeah, because the chiller is, I guess at some point, not sure what happened, but it's supposed to be 25, but it's 34. But anyways, I guess we run the test. Oh, now it's dropped to 40, 24, and 35. Yeah, so it's back and forth, but pretty much the water is cold all the time. Inside the tube is just the temperatures on the sensor, which I'm not sure what exactly affecting that. And yeah, this is everything. Again, the processor is 10980XE, i9 core, 18 core processor, 36 threads, running 5 GHz. Yep, thanks for watching.